Warning, this show may be triggering for anybody experiencing gambling-related harm. Please watch cautiously. We speak from our experiences only. Please seek professional help for a gambling addiction.
Hi, I'm Christina, and I haven't placed a bet since March of 2021.
And I'm Brian, and I haven't placed a bet since July of 2014. Christina, how has your week in recovery been?
You know, it's been pretty good this week. I feel guilty saying that. Is that like when you were in early recovery, did you feel the guilt?
No, don't feel guilty that you feel good. That's a good thing.
It's weird. Somebody asked me the other day, they're like, how's your day? And I'm like, it's really good. Why do I feel guilty saying that? Like, not guilty, but almost like, what's going to happen?
Do you like feeling bad?
Maybe it's like part of that like self-destructive pattern. I don't know. It's just kind of like when somebody asks me how I'm doing, I'm so scared to say things are good because I had so many years of just like stressful days, like in the cycle. And even now here, over 10 months in, it's still like, why are things good? Like, it's a weird, bizarre feeling that I just thought I would share for no.
Do you think deep down,
reason.
Because you speak to a lot of people who are still gambling or struggling with their gambling addiction, do you think it's because you're talking to so many of those individuals that you feel bad saying that I'm okay?
I didn't think of it like that. Maybe that could be a lot of it, but then I still think I'm still carrying around like guilt, shame. So I still think that shows up in emotions. And I mean, not necessarily emotions, but it shows up sometimes when people ask me things and like something will just come out of nowhere for no reason. And so I kind of think it's more of just like a reaction. Like I'm having a really good day. Like it just feels weird because there was just a time in my life where I couldn't see the good in the day. There was a lot of those days, especially towards, the end of my gambling career or addiction. And so, yeah, it's weird. It's just when you asked me that this week, it just reminded me that I had that conversation with a friend. Like, why is it weird to say I had a good day?
Well, you are having a good day, so enjoy saying it.
So how was your week in recovery?
My week was good. I had COVID, so that, other than that, it was good. But what I didn't like, what I saw in my home state of Michigan is that my childhood university that I love to watch, Michigan State University, has teamed with Caesars Sportsbook. And so they are the official sportsbook of Michigan State University now. And the article that was written about it in the Detroit Free Press did not include the helpline. So I emailed the gentleman who wrote it and I said, hey, when you write these articles, could you please include the helpline? I don't know if that'll work or not in the future, but I felt good writing that. So hopefully he will do that because I think that's the only place to get that helpline in the article is when you're writing about gambling. So might as well include it. And I don't know how I feel about Michigan. I don't like it, but it is what it is. And there's going to be more of them. I was just bummed to see that it was Michigan State.
Yeah. We'll have to do an episode about like reaching out to the press about correcting some of those things and the reactions that we get. Cause I could tell you a few stories.
Yeah. I'm just the annoying guy who's like, hey, could you put the helpline in your article next time?
Yeah. I'm the one that writes like a whole 6-page essay of why they should.
Good. Send that essay to me so I can forward it along next time instead of me just going, it'd be great as if you could do what I want you to do.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready for our guest this week? We have awesome guests this week who I know very well now. Many interactions with them, huge interactions, as a former president would say, huge interactions.
I'm super excited. I've been a fan and I've talked to them. And so it's great to finally actually see their faces and get to have a conversation.
Yes. 3 frontline workers from the Northeast Problem Gambling Resource Center, part of the New York Council on Problem Gambling. We have team leader Brandy Richards, program manager Amy McBride, and program manager Robin Fetterman have joined us. Robin, Amy, and Brandy, how are you? We'll start with Brandy. Brandy, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having us. It's great to finally meet Christina and we love listening to this show. So we're really excited to be a part of it. Thanks for having us.
Amy, how are you?
I'm doing much better. I'm also coming back from being sick, so I'm happy to be well again.
Wonderful. And Robin?
I'm doing great this week. I cannot complain. So I'm happy to be here. I haven't seen you in a while, Brian, and I've gone to meet Christina for a while too. So thank you for having us. This is great.
You three work on the front lines of getting help with gambling. If we call your number, we get one of the three of you on the phone. Brandy, would you just describe what your position is and what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm one of the three trios here. The three of us represent the Northeast Problem Gambling Resource Center. So we cover 15 counties in upstate New York. And what we do is my role is very simple. Actually, the three of us, we raise awareness about problem gambling and we connect people to care. And so I'm out there doing just that, raising awareness through the podcasts like this, through YouTube channels, at trainings. There's a variety of different opportunities for us. Anybody that will listen, we will talk. And Amy and Robin have the important roles of when folks are reaching out for help, they're the ones that can connect them to that.
Amy, what's it like being there on the front lines and answering those phones?
I love it. It to me is the best part of the job. I always say it's the most rewarding part. Certainly, being able to answer the calls and help the person on the other end is very rewarding. There's definitely times where, it can be stressful. But I think that's the beauty in the way our resource center is set up. I'm really fortunate to have Robin as my counterpart. So she's definitely my photo friend. So at times, if I'm stuck or uncertain of, the best match or resource, Robin and I can bounce those things off of each other. So I like to think that with the three of us, we're just a really nice balance for the resource center.
And Robin, what is being a program manager?
Oh, it involves a few things. There's a few layers. So first and foremost, really taking the calls. That's what program managers are focused on. And part of what that means is we're always trying to meet the person where they're at. We don't ask too many questions, really. It's as much or as little as someone wants to tell us. They just need to identify that maybe they have a problem with gambling or they have a loved one that's got a problem. But we're always trying to make connections. That's a really important part of what we do too. And what that means, especially with the recovery community, because as you know, that is such a vital part of somebody getting better. You've got to have that community of people that support you and build you up. So I'm not sure what I would do without you and Brian, in all seriousness. I feel like we've really increased the amount of recovery resources that we can provide to people. And I feel like I find the majority of them through you two. And just that community of people that you're also interconnected. And I think it's a beautiful thing. So building up the capacity to help people has been a really big, important part of being a program manager. And then we're always making new partners. I mean, it's really about getting out in our community, meeting community members, encouraging them to attend one of Brandy's trainings, learn more about what problem gambling looks like, learn warning signs, implement some screenings in what you're doing. Because we have learned in the 3 years since we've started that a lot of people are slipping through the cracks, where some simple screening questions in any type of service they're seeking out would really help to catch people that are slipping. So that's the bulk of what we do. But again, there's so many layers, but I won't go on too much. That'll be a full half an hour of what we're doing.
And we're so thankful that there are hotlines and things like that people can reach out to. So very thankful. So I'm going to take this to Brandy, and I'm going to ask, New York initiated the online sports betting this past weekend. Are you seeing an increase already in the phone calls?
Yeah, for us, we've definitely seen an increase in the calls. But we know that anytime you increase accessibility, you're going to increase the likelihood of problems. And this is something we're very concerned about. We're concerned about a whole new generation of individuals that now have access to be able to gamble, 24/7 right in the palm of their hands. we often call gambling addiction the hidden addiction because it's something that's very easy to hide. And now you can do it in the privacy of your home. You can do it at work. You can do it on your way to work. You can do it at school. There's just the opportunities are endless. And we know that, the research shows that sports bettors tend to have a higher rate of gambling problems than individuals that gamble other ways. And online betting also increases the opportunity for people to develop problems more quickly. So it's certainly something that we in the field are very concerned about. We're being bombarded with advertisements and free promotions, and the messaging isn't out there about the balance. We need that kind of balanced messaging with prevention messaging, and we need people to know that there are resources out there. There is help. There is hope for this. And so we appreciate the opportunity to have conversations like this, because it's going to be so important that people know about these services, that they're aware, that they understand what the warning signs are. Like Robin said, what are the things that you need to look for in loved ones or even in yourself? Is this starting to take priority in your life? Are you not able to put it down? Are you distracted by it? There's so many things that are a cause for concern. And I know that, our neighboring states that have had the legalization of mobile sports betting have seen significant increases in their call volume to their helpline. Pennsylvania, they saw an increase, like a 285% increase in their helpline calls from the onset of mobile sports betting. In New Jersey, about half of the folks in their treatment program are in treatment for issues related to sports gambling. So, the data is there. This is a real thing, and we just need people to know that there is help. There is hope. And we're right there to answer that. As easy it is to place a bet, it's just as easy to pick up that phone and call and ask for help.
Absolutely. And the reason why I brought that up is because the state of Oklahoma is looking to bring, where I live, is looking to bring sports betting into the state. Probably it could be as early as this year, most likely next year. So it's just when I see things like that, fortunately we aren't online yet, but that's just something that's inevitable. So I thought it was just, it's an important conversation to have. One thing that's interesting, and I'm probably going out of turn here, is that I actually talk with a bunch of women who struggled with sports betting themselves. And I thought that was kind of, because I didn't really know anything about sports betting when I stepped into recovery. I didn't know anything about a lot of different ways gambling addiction shows up. So when I've come across women who have struggled with sports betting, it really surprised me. My next question over to Robin and see, let's talk about the statistics of just women in general.
I would say, so we opened, very late of 2018. So we'll just really start at 2019. So when we first opened, we had a pretty even distribution of male to female callers calling in with an issue with gambling that needed some help. And that has changed. It's definitely shifted a little. So the 2 pandemic years, 2020, 2021, we saw a bit of an increase in men that were calling in for help. And I should say overall, though, of course, when the huge shutdown happened in 2020, call volume definitely fell off too, which makes sense. We had people or callers anecdotally tell us that, casinos are closed. It kind of served as a protective factor, right? People couldn't go place bets. So they were like, I don't need help right now. This is a good thing for me. In 2021, of course, our call volume is the highest that it's ever been. So, and I think the shift, of course, has been that we've gotten really comfortable with telehealth and, doing things virtually and everything else. So as we know, pretty much when things changed in 2020, there was a big push to get lottery being an online platform, horse racing that is huge in our area. They adapted by also streaming it live, and people could place bets, and they were offering great promotions and things like that. So by the time 2021 hit, really, there was just a spike in calls overall. The interesting thing there is that for men have always remained slightly higher. And it's only very slight. But 2020, it was about a 20% jump in men versus women calling in for help. And then that shifted again to almost a 40% increase in men over women in 2021. So this is where stats can get a little confusing, though. Men and women in 2021 are still pretty even for calling in for help. But the biggest difference is the majority of women that were calling in were family members. So they were either a sister, a daughter, a significant other calling in looking for services for their loved one. But a big change that we saw is the great news, these women are getting treatment themselves. So they're getting the support they need. Because we always try to encourage that, really. We all know with any type of addiction, it's a family disease, right? It affects 8 to 10 other people. I mean, really, if it's kind of like the family system needs to get well together, that's something that we highly encourage. So that was a great shift in 2021 to see. And what I love about that, Christina, is that, for example, 2 adult daughters started speaking with a counselor together, right? They had a mother who had an issue with the lottery, and they didn't know if she would ever be open to treatment, ever go speak to someone. So they started and they supported themselves. And what do you know? They kind of presented the idea to her, let's all go together. So she was willing to go. She's been in treatment now, and she's in recovery. So she, again, hasn't been playing the lotto. There's so many different pathways for people to get there. And I think we're going to see, especially with the increase in the recovery community being a little more, there's more options for women. I think we're going to see more women start to come forward. And while I'm not psyched about gambling expansion, the more we're all talking about it, I mean, Brandy sold herself short. So Brandy did like 7, 8 interviews, I think, print and with the press, TV interviews. I mean, she was in a Canadian newspaper. They were talking about our little tiny Northeast PGRC in a Canadian newspaper. I'm sorry, that's pretty incredible. So between the US and our partners abroad, I think we're really starting to build up some momentum, right? Like, let's keep talking about this. We need to help people. So I think more women are going to come forward, I hope, and be comfortable talking about it, knowing that they're not alone. And it affects them almost as equally as men.
And that's my hope too. And I think the biggest chance that we all have is by having a support system. And that support system needs to be supported themselves. And so, yeah, absolutely encourage, affected others to find their own recovery. And it's very similar to the recovery of an addict going through recovery. We had an affected spouse on, and her recovery was just very similar to that of her husband's, as far as like talking with people, having the support groups and having, those conversations. So I'm going to take it to Amy now, and I'm going to ask, what is a day in the life of somebody who takes these calls? It's got to be really emotionally taxing some days, right?
Well, it certainly can be. I was thinking about this recently, and I think for me the best way to sum it up is, for what we do, we really have to be both flexible and disciplined. And I learned that from our executive director, Jim Maney. It's one of his famous lines, and it really is true for what we do as, like you say, frontline workers, because from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, Robin and I are on call, and we could have any type of caller on the other end. We just have to be really prepared with all sorts of different resources and tools. We just have to be at the ready. And that means, we're at a partnership meeting. If that phone rings, that takes precedent. That's what's important. So even though, like you said, there's days where it can be tough, again, I just go back to it's so incredibly rewarding, because we've removed, with this program, we've really removed all types of barriers for people getting help, including family members. We can help cover the cost of treatment. So if someone doesn't have insurance and calls in, it's not going to be a barrier for our program. We can get them connected to services. If they want to get counseling, we can do it. If they live in more of a remote area, because again, we cover 15 counties, and that includes rural areas, cities, suburbs, and people come in looking for so many different things. Robin and I just feel so confident that we can figure something out and we can meet those needs. We have yet to pick up the phone and have someone that we couldn't help in some way, shape, or form. And we've had calls come in from other states, and granted, we cover New York State, but we don't just, hang up the phone and go, oh, sorry, we're only New York State. Robin and I, they're going to get one of us and we're going to help that person. We're going to look up some resources and we're not just going to give them another phone number. We're going to make a warm transfer and make sure that that person's supported, because we really take this work so serious. And we know that the other person on the line, it took a lot. It took a lot to pick up that phone and for that person to call. And I don't take that lightly. I think about that anytime the phone rings. That took a lot of, it took a lot of guts to pick up the phone and to say, you know what, I need some help. I need some information. I'm concerned about my loved one. It's not an easy thing to do. And, I think it's one of the hardest parts of this whole process for someone to say it out loud to a complete stranger, and they don't know what's going to happen on the other end of the phone. So when we answer that phone, Robin and I are ready, and we just want to make sure that person feels supported. We meet them where they're at, whether they're ready for treatment or not. Robin and I are ready to offer it up to them whenever they're ready. So, really, that's a long-winded response, but we just have to be ready for whatever gets thrown our way. And we don't always have all the answers, but again, we have to really use active listening, and we have to really let the person know on the other end we do care, and we will get them help. We will get them support. And even if we don't have the answers right there and then, we will let them know, I'm going to be reaching back out to you. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to call this person. I'm going to make these phone calls, and I will be calling you back. Or if the person, is willing to stay on the phone with us, we can do warm transfers right to a clinician. And, some of our success stories, it doesn't always happen, but we've had times where a clinician has gotten a person an appointment that day, has said, you know what, I'm free. Why don't we chat? And they've gotten an appointment immediately. I mean, that's incredible. Talk about, wanting something, being ready, and right there and then you can get some help and support.
Absolutely. I'm jumping ahead of Brian. I'm sure he wants to say something, but I'm just not letting him right now. I just wanted to share, like, whenever I did call the helpline here in our state, I didn't have the best experience, but the reason why I want to share this is not to deter anybody from calling the helpline, because what you said, I know there are so many people out there who want to help that person on the other line. There's so many people that do. And just occasionally you get somebody that's maybe having an off day or had a hard call, or whatever the circumstances is that you felt like maybe you didn't connect with that person on the other line, or you didn't feel like they cared, or keep trying different avenues, keep trying the line, don't let it deter you. I didn't let it deter me. I didn't have the best first phone call. I did not let it deter me. And I kept moving forward to find different avenues I just took different ways. But I do want to just share that so that somebody out there who's like, well, I called the helpline, and, call again, and, just keep trying to find, the next best way to move forward. So I just wanted to share that. And I appreciate listening to just you guys talking about how much you care about that person calling in, because we all care, and we want everybody to find the help they need and not be discouraged in that moment.
It shouldn't be hard. It really shouldn't. With
Absolutely.
how easy it is for people to gamble and to develop a gambling problem, getting help should be easy. And that's really our goal. And you hit the nail on the head. Really, care and concern is at the bottom of what the three of us do, what our agency does. It all comes from a place of care and concern.
Can I add something? Are we allowed to talk out of turn? I don't know.
No, Robin, wait your turn.
Right. Well, this just made me think of something. So I had a younger guy call in, and he was in tears. He could barely talk. And, I talked with him for a while. I mean, I connected him to a counselor right away. So he could have a counseling session right away, because again, I was nervous about this one. I wanted to assess him and make sure he was in a safe place. And I stuck with him. So over an hour plus, I was working with him, because I was just not going to put that phone down until I knew he was okay. And like there's certain calls I take that will stick with me forever. He will definitely be one of them. He just kept saying when he could calm down enough to even talk, like, you're just so nice. Like, thank you for being so nice. Like, I just can't believe how nice you're being to me. And that was a little heartbreaking in itself to hear, because I just want to be like, oh my goodness, of course. Like, I've been there. I know what you're going through. Like, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone. And you should never have to apologize for crying. Like, please, you don't need to say that to me. I'm so happy to be helping you today. Really, like, this is going to be the best part of my day, is that I helped you today. And that's genuine. So again, I just think it's important to share that, we're real people on the end of our phone too. We can probably relate to a lot of things that you're going through, whether we've experienced them ourselves personally, or just in the fact that I've been helping people in this field for 3 years. And I've heard so many different stories, but there's so many different common themes within all of those stories, whether it's grief, a mental health issue, something that's causing the gambling behavior, right? And like I said, we all have that, I feel like, somewhere in our life. So
thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that story. It's amazing that he was so impressed with how kind you were. But that's why Christina and I wanted to have you guys on to talk to you about this, because I think people need to see faces with you're a good representation of other helpline, but you're a good representation of it, right? You're the rule. You're not the exception. Most people are going to be kind when they're trying to help somebody. And so I think it's just great to put a face with what a position means in the world of helping people with problem gambling. So thank you again for what you do. I'll just keep saying thank you this whole show. Brandy, when you're not being a ghost on the screen, you are currently, there's a new program with the New York Council on Problem Gambling called People, Purpose, and Passion, if I had that order correct.
You did.
Prior to telling us what that is,
yes,
could you explain the regional help centers? Because I think some people from other places might be confused as to why there's a regional help center.
Absolutely. So the great news about this is there are resource centers. There are 3 of us in every part of the state. So we are one of 7 resource centers all across New York State. So in each region, it's kind of broken up in various regions. But if you go to our website, the nyproblemgamblinghelp.org, you'll see this large interactive map of New York State. You can click on each of those regions, find out what county you're in, wherever you're looking for, and you will get directed you'll get the number that will directly connect you with the Amy and Robin in that region. And we all work together. And again, we all have the same mission. We all have the same goals. We raise awareness and we connect people to care. And each one of those resource centers are the experts. They know what the resources are. They will get you connected. They have the networks of the private practitioners that are specially trained to help individuals who have gambling problems. We have inpatient, outpatient. There's just a whole host of resources that are available. And again, like Amy and Robin said, they will meet you where you're at. And it's, again, our whole organization is based on the foundation of, like Amy said, care and concern. You're going to get somebody on the other line who is willing and to listen and to help you get you connected or your loved one connected as quickly as possible to the help that you need, with no barriers. Our motto is no barriers to care.
Thank you for sharing that. And the people Now I said it once perfectly, and now people, passion, and purpose.
People, purpose, and passion.
See?
So that is a campaign that was launched actually at our conference this year. We had a conference in October all about problem gambling, where we have speakers and we bring people together, and we kind of kicked that campaign off through the New York Council on Problem Gambling. And it's exactly what it says. It's people, purpose, and passion, the pathway to success. And the idea behind that is to bring everybody together, whether you're a professional, whether you're an individual, whether you're an organization, a legislator. This is, something, problem gambling is something we all need to come together to address. And that's exactly what it is. And the idea, so we have a website called strongerthanyouthinkny.org. And if you go to that website, you're going to get, there's resources on there for individuals and families to find resources and support to get yourselves connected to whatever supports you need. There's a link on there for professionals, because we want professionals in the field to be aware of this issue. We want to provide them training and education. We want them to screen. So there's opportunities for them to do all of that on there. There's links for screening. There's links to access. The New York Council on Problem Gambling has a whole variety of training that's available, web-based training and online training with various topics and connections to, homelessness and, individuals, different minorities that are connected, just a variety of different topics that are all interrelated with problem gambling. And then there's another section on there for legislators and advocates, so that they can be aware, of how this issue is impacting the communities that they serve. So there's a variety of resources on there. There's little partner seals that let people know that, hey, I'm somebody that supports this. And, all those things are meant to help reduce those barriers and to break down the shame and the stigma, so people can talk about this addiction. We don't want it to be hidden anymore. We want people to recognize that it's creating the same kind of devastating impacts on families and individuals and communities that other addictions are, and that there's help. The message is that there's help and there's hope. That's really kind of the bottom line of it. And we all need to, we can't combat this alone. We need everybody on board.
Well said.
Very well said.
It's not quite a Jim Maney, but it's all right.
It was damn good. Why did the three of you do what you do? Why did you get into this line of work, into public health? I would consider you all public health advocates. Robin, why did you get into this line of work?
Definitely. Well, I think we talked about this a little bit on your podcast. So I was the public health educator for a county, covering what felt like every health topic under the sun. I facilitated a suicide coalition, even, for example, yet nowhere in any of the work I was doing in my public health department were we talking about gambling. So Amy, my partner in crime down there, she sent me an email one day and told me she was leaving. And I was like, oh, where are you going? Because I loved working with her. We didn't work for the same company, but we would see each other at partnership meetings. And so she told me, I'm going to go work for the New York Council on Problem Gambling. Like, this is a good opportunity. I'm going to go check it out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you talking about? You've got to send that my way. So again, I was like, I was, I guess, just a bit fascinated. So my favorite things that I did in the public health department were working with people with addiction and facilitating that suicide coalition to try to reduce the numbers of people that were losing to suicide. And again, I was blown away that nowhere in the conversation is problem gambling. They have the highest rate of suicide of all addiction. Mental health rates are through the roof. Gambling is embedded in our culture. It is everywhere.
Can you say that again?
Sure.
The part about the suicide, I just think that's such an important fact.
Yeah. It's got the highest rate. So 1 in 5 people with problem gambling will attempt or complete suicide. And that's higher than any other addiction. So that's a staggering number. We're losing people, and we shouldn't be losing people. So we all say we're in the business of saving lives. And that's, I think, why we're so passionate, because we really do feel like we're saving a life and we're saving families. That's what we're doing every day, and it matters. I just wanted to be a part of this field. I am a redhead, which means I am stubborn and I like a challenge. And I'm like, I don't hear anyone talking about problem gambling, and why is that? So it's kind of exciting to be a part of I call it a movement. I feel like we're a part of a movement over here because, again, like I was saying, it's so embedded in our culture. It's like when smoking first, big tobacco, right? When smoking first came around, it was the cool thing to do. Movie stars, celebrities, everybody's smoking. And then it takes decades to realize, oh, no, that's not good for you. That's causing disease and cancer and death. So let's pull back. We've got to change this up now and say, warning, let's put warnings on everything, right? Like, you can smoke, but it's at your own risk. It's kind of like that's where we need to get with gambling, because it's been so normalized. Like I said, I can't believe it's everywhere, and I didn't notice before. The blinders are off. I read a lot. It's in so many books. It's in TV. It's all over movies, now ads everywhere. It's becoming a part of sports. Going hand in hand with sports now. I don't know if people are really watching a sport because they care about watching people play the sport, or because they're really just there for their betting. So I think we have a lot of work to do. And I'm a hard worker and I'm dedicated and I like a good challenge. So I just want to make a difference. And that's why I care about public health. It's making a difference. It's changing health for the better. So,
and we're so grateful that you're being a voice for problem gambling. I know when I first stepped into recovery and trying to figure out what to do, I struggled with finding resources. I found resources, but I wasn't connecting well with them. And I wasn't having a really hard time finding women who were talking about this addiction, who were putting themselves out there. And, that was something that really sparked this passion in me to be a woman talking about gambling addiction, because there's not a lot of us out there who are sharing our stories and our vulnerabilities. And it's hard. I mean, just from what I have shared on my podcast and what I've shared on here, it's still kind of like, I mean, I have so much. I gambled for 15 years. Not all of it was compulsively, the last 7 years being compulsive, but there's just seemed like there was a time where every day could have been its own story of what I went through to gamble, what I experienced gambling. And I know that I'm not the only one. I would see dozens and dozens of the same women there with me, the same time, spending the same money. And it's like, but yet women weren't talking about this. They weren't talking about the emotions and things like that they experience. And so I found men, I was lucky to find Brian's podcast, because that really opened my eyes to being an outlet, a voice, and an inspiration for my own podcast. And Brian's great. Like, he's my buddy, we're doing a show together, but at the same time, he's a dude talking to other dudes about gambling addiction. And it was like, I could connect because there's that connection across the board. Like you said earlier about, addiction is addiction is addiction. There's a commonality across the board, but women connect differently. Not all women, but most women connect differently. We need more. And when you said the stats about a lot of the women calling in were affected others, because women need that connection for their own healing, regardless of whether they're the addict or the affected other. And they need to dig and find that. And it's just like, we just go further. We need more, Brian could probably attest, we're not easily satisfied. We got to keep going, So yeah, it feels great to talk to people about it.
I agree. And not to keep talking, but I've got to share this, because Brian, you always say you're here for a selfish reason, right? I do this podcast because it helps me in my recovery.
I still haven't gambled, so it's working.
Right? So it's working. So stick with it. Plus, we would miss your voice and face now if you stop doing all of this, because you're like a friend. You're like one of those. And now we've met you. So I can truly say you're a friend without a doubt. Not one of those, I only know you through media friends.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just wanted to share. I mean, why am I here too? I'm here for selfish reasons too. So, my entire family, it's alcohol addiction, right? My entire 3 generations worth. And I've watched it kill family members. I mean, I lost my dad at 61 to it. It's killing my brother. And up until a year ago, it was killing my husband. So it's a big deal to me. I'm here for selfish reasons too, because sometimes you feel powerless to help people within your own life, your own family. Addiction is a hard one to beat, right? It really is. And sometimes you watch it take the people that you love the most, and that can be really hurtful. So I'm here out of a desire too, because I wanted to make a difference in someone's life. My family wasn't listening. I wasn't necessarily going to save every one of them. So I guess I'm here for a selfish reason too, Brian, because at the end of the day, there's really, I don't know how to describe it, but when you make an impact in someone's life and you make a difference, it really does mean something.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. Amy, when you departed work with Robin, was it because of Robin and then she followed you and you were like, hey, what the heck? I just left you. Or I assume it was something much more positive than that. What took you to the New York Council and how did you get into public health?
Right. Well, it was, definitely something positive. I was thrilled when Robin and Brandy and I all came together, because I had known each of them from my previous role working at a prevention council. And, the work I was doing before was a lot of outreach in the community, countywide, and doing some prevention work and a lot of parent education, managing programs that were prevention based. And it was great work. It was fulfilling work, but there was something missing and I didn't know what it was. And, this opportunity came about to join this up and coming program with the PGRCs. And I said, what the heck, I'll apply, and I do know some of the people there, and I'll just go, but I'm not looking to leave my job. I love what I do. And, just meeting with the council and, just again, it was they dangled the carrot, and it wasn't anything extravagant. It was, hey, we are working towards this mission and we're all really passionate about the work we do. We care about people. And it was that human element. And that's what really drew me in at first was, you know what? I think this is a really great group to latch on to. So that's kind of what shifted my focus there. But the other part was I live in an area called Saratoga Springs, and in this area has one of the oldest horse racing tracks in the state, and maybe even the whole Northeast. I'm not sure there. I'm a transient. I grew up in Buffalo, so I've been here now 4 years. But coming here, 4 years ago, I just was so confused about the culture here with horse racing, and just like Robin was talking about already, just how accepted it is, and how it's sort of an expectation that you bring your young children into it, and just all of these sort of things that I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. So for me, being in this smaller community and seeing some concerns and already being aware of it, I thought, you know what, this is something that needs to be addressed and talked about it, and it's important. And then when I learned more about the program manager role, that was the green light, the light bulb for me, because I'm like, that's what I'm missing. I'm naturally, what I would consider a helper. I went into teaching. I actually have my master's in education, and that's what I thought I wanted to do, and I did for a number of years. So I have a background as a teacher. I just always wanted to help people. So I think, as much as I loved that community education piece and managing programs, I didn't have that direct connection, and that's what I really was missing. So when this opportunity came up to, be the person on the other end and to help people, I just knew that was the missing piece for me, and that's what I needed to do. And that was sort of my calling, was to help people, because that's, again, I always say that's kind of my selfish part with this job too, is I get so much out of helping people. I just love it, and it gives me, it just gives me so much back.
Well, that kid was right. You guys are so nice.
You really are so very nice. I'm going to take it over to Brandy and ask, how did you go down, find your way to this field and your work in problem gambling?
So I too, similar to Amy, I worked for a rural county up in upstate New York. I had been there forever, it seemed like. I loved my job. I did a lot of prevention work in the communities and the schools. I did a lot of coalition work. I worked on, I did an outdoor adventure-based program with at-risk youth. We provided wraparound services for people that were involved with a variety of different levels of care. And the same thing, we got a call about hey, come down, and we've got this great organization. And I had known quite a few of the folks who had been in the field of prevention and doing other things, and that worked for this, that left and had gone to work for this organization. Like, just come down. I'm like, well, how bad can it be if they liked it? And, I was perfectly content where I was. And when I remember meeting with Jim and Michelle, and he's like, I have nothing to offer you. This is our dream. This is what we want to do. And he's like, all I can tell you is you will be fulfilled. We are passionate about what we do. And that alone, like I had no other reason to do it. And honestly, for me, being in the prevention field, we talked about substance use. We talked about a variety of things. We didn't talk about gambling as a risky behavior at all. That was not something we talked about, and I'm like, is this really a problem? And I'm embarrassed to say that now. And part of the fuel that drives me is I don't want anybody else to be who I was. Is this really, because every single conversation that we have, there is not a conversation or presentation or training where somebody doesn't come up and say, I know somebody, or this has personally impacted me, or you can see the wheels going. And so that, to me, that's how I look at my role, and what I do is planting that seed, because you don't know what you don't know, and so after we have conversations with people, then they start noticing, oh my gosh, I see people, sitting in a convenience store scratching away, or I noticed this person that's doing this, so for me, I've never worked with a more dedicated group of individuals who truly care. When Amy and Robin talk about that, all I can think of is, if I had a family member who was struggling with this, I would not hesitate 100%, because I know that they're going to get the best care possible when they pick up that phone, that there's somebody on the other end of the line that's going to listen to them, that's going to get them connected. I tease Amy and Robin, we call them matchmakers, because that's what they do. They match people with whatever service that they need. So I don't even know if I answered your original question, but I'm happy. I don't know how I got here, but I'm so happy I'm here, and I'm so pleased to be able to help people and bring that awareness up, because that's, it's so important, especially now. And I have to say, we have to say that we are not anti-gambling. We take a neutral stance on gambling. We simply exist to help people that have a problem. And that's not going away.
Yeah, you answered the question. I sometimes struggle too when somebody asks me a question. I'm like, wait, did I answer that? Because you get so passionate about it, and you start talking about it. And what is it they say, that when you do your passion, you don't work a day in your life? I'm not sure what the exact wording is, but it definitely makes working worthwhile when you're doing something that you love and rewarding, and that is actually helping others. So again, we are so thankful for the work that you're doing, and for all the people that you've helped and will continue to help and be available for. I'm going to take it down to Brian. He's probably going to ask you a few questions, and he's going to hold up our high budget sign.
Absolutely, I am. Robin, Amy, and Brandy, thank you so much for being here and doing this. Before we leave, do you want to share the phone number for anybody struggling with an addiction in New York State?
Sure. It's 518-801-1491. That will reach, you will get Amy or Robin on the line when you call that number. And if you're looking to access if you're from another part of the state and looking to get help that way, you can visit our website at nyproblemgamblinghelp.org.
Thank you for sharing that. Does anybody have any final thoughts they wanted to share, or you just want to wave goodbye?
Oh, I'm dying. I've got something.
Yeah, please.
We're such talkers. I'm so sorry.
No, we could go forever.
I love it.
Okay, so we're a small agency, right? What? How many? Is there like 35 of us? We're like
36,
small, 36. Small but mighty army, I call us. So some really cool developments, can I just say? I feel like this is a big deal. You know how it used to be really hard to find the phone number for help anywhere, right? Like in a gaming facility, things like that. So things are starting to change, and that's exciting. So our number, our resources are at all the ATMs now in gaming facilities. You don't have to go try to just self-exclude to find us. We're kind of all throughout the facility, and a really big change. There's a QR code that will take you directly to our services now on the voluntary self-exclusion form, which is really a big deal, in my opinion.
That absolutely is.
Right? Because it's not that hard to find us. And the last one that was just shared this morning, big ad for one of the sports betting operators. Our QR code for finding help was larger then the QR code to like go to the service for whatever promotional deal they were trying to get people looped in. And that's a really,
it was for the newspaper, the QR code for the newspaper. Ours was larger and right on the front cover. So that was exciting.
Yeah,
it's exciting because we're starting to make some ripples, and that's a big deal. We work so hard to make ripples, and we're it's going to be a wave. We're going to be a tidal wave at some point here, but right now it's little ripples in the water, and it's exciting because all that effort is paying off in as much as it can for being a small agency of 36 people that really care.
That's wonderful. You know, Brandy said help and hope, and you guys are helping people and it gives us hope. So thank you so much for what you all do. Thank you, Robin, Amy, and Brandy for doing this. Thank you to the New York Council on Problem Gambling, and hello to everybody there. Wonderful group of people. For Christina, I'm Brian. Thanks for watching The Bet Free Life.
Thanks, everybody.
You think we could
Every time.
sign?
Every time.